open up that Crystal Pepsi and get comfortable.
This is Dope Nostalgia.
Episode 243 of the Dope Nostalgia podcast is here right now. I'm Naomi, and I can't wait to talk with you guys again and share this new episode about a duo that was fantastically famous at songwriting and production back in the 90s, especially in the 80s, to be honest. They were founded in 89, but they had done a lot of work together before that. LaFace. That's L.A. Reid and Babyface. They are such an iconic duo. So I'll tell you all about them with my special guest today. The website is chartbeats.com.au. The creator, the founder. This is Gavin Scott joining us today to talk all about LaFace and to tell us about his website and the amazing history and nostalgia that lives on today through chartbeats.com.au. All the way from Australia, my special guest today. Thank you, Gavin, for being here. Before we get to that, I've got another Gen Z friend here, Michael, who's going to talk to us about his knowledge of things that happened in the 90s, news, music, all of that. I had a few questions to ask Michael, and he delivered. Welcome, Michael. Let's see what he had to say. Cool. I'd like to welcome Michael to Dope Nostalgia Podcast. How are you today, Michael?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
How old are you, Michael? What year were you born?
I was born in 2003. I'm 21 years old.
Nice. Who's one of your favorite bands right now?
I would have to say Morgan Wallen.
Morgan Wallen?
Yeah.
Very popular guy.
Yeah.
I don't know shit
As
about
of right
Morgan
now,
Wallen.
But
Have you heard of the band Korn?
yes, with a K. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you know about Korn?
They made one song for VeggieTales, like the
Did they? No way.
the Larry Boy special. They did.
They did?
They did.
I did not know that.
No, the movie Larry Boy.
No, I don't know what that is.
Oh well. Anyway, I do know of Korn, but very limited
That's
knowledge.
incredible. Have you heard of Bon Jovi?
I have heard of Bon Jovi.
What do you know about them? Any of their songs?
Not that I can name off the top of my head, but there was a couple, obviously, that were pretty big back in the day. Even now, I feel like if I heard them, I'd definitely recognize them.
Mm-hmm.
I used to play them on Guitar Hero.
Oh,
Yeah,
were you a
yeah.
big fan of Guitar Hero? Did you do Rock
As
Band?
a kid, yeah. No, not Rock Band. I was more of a Guitar Hero kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was your favorite song to play?
I can't remember what it's called, but...
I like that Dragon Force one that's at the end.
Of what?
Between the Fire and the Flames or whatever it's called.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That
Yeah.
was insane, the guitar and all that.
On Expert.
Yeah.
Can't be done.
Mm-mm. Not for me.
Okay. Have you heard of Michael and Janet Jackson?
No, but Janet Jackson does ring a bell.
Okay.
Yeah.
But not Michael?
No. Oh, Michael Jackson. Oh, okay. It didn't really click because he didn't say Michael and then
It's
Jackson.
no way I
If you
said
would have said
Mike-
Janet and Michael Jackson, I would have got it. But yes, I do know Michael Jackson. I know a few of his songs.
See, this is what good content is right here. What's your favorite Michael Jackson song?
I'm very basic, but it would have to be Thriller or The Mask. The Mask is good.
Okay. What's something you remember about him and his legacy?
He had a weird thing where he invited kids over to his place or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's a weird Netflix special about it, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Something Neverland, I don't know.
That's right. Finding Neverland?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Did you watch that?
I did, and there was like, I don't know, what I took away from it is just mostly he, I don't know. It wasn't weird or anything, but he, I think it was mainly him and his childhood because I don't know how to say it. Let's just move on.
Okay. No. No, we can't.
Low brain power.
Okay. Who's MC Hammer?
I don't know. He's the can't touch this guy, right?
He is.
Yeah. The Hammer Time.
Have you ever seen a picture of MC Hammer?
No, he's a white guy though, right?
He's not.
Really? He's not
No.
white? What
no.
is he?
He's black.
Oh, I'm thinking of, I don't know why, but I'm thinking of Vanilla Ice.
I think I know why. Because they were kind of rivals.
Were they?
Yeah, in the rap
I
game.
had no idea.
not in like the like gang
Tupac and
gangster
Biggie
rap
kind of thing?
game,
Oh,
but like more like the
more like just like
pop.
this track,
Yeah,
like back and forth kind of controversy.
kind of. I think they're just trying to out popular each other. Anyway,
That's right.
anyway, yeah. Have you heard of Blink 182?
Yes.
What do you know about them?
Not much. I know they started a bunch of like a whole trend of punk, kind of like a whole subgenre of that thing where people were kind of like, yeah, just the whole style.
I agree.
I feel like they pioneered their own style. So
When we talk about news things, who's O.J. Simpson?
I do not know. I think he was murdered people, right?
Yeah.
People thought
I
he
shouldn't
did.
laugh at that, but
Pretty much.
It's okay.
he's known for murdering people, yes.
Well, allegedly, right? Was he
Allegedly.
ever proven guilty?
The funny thing is, no, in a court of law, he was not proven guilty, but he did end up going to jail anyway for a completely different crime years later.
Oh, well, interesting.
Yeah.
Weird how that works out.
Who is Bill Cosby?
Funny thing, I read almost all of his books as a kid.
Yeah?
And then the stuff came out about his stuff with all those women. And I instantly just kind of threw away those books.
No
It
kidding.
was a big part of my childhood. I thought it was super funny as a kid. Then I was like, oh, wow.
But that's the problem. He was a great talent.
Yeah,
An
for
entertainer.
sure.
It's just disgusting who he was. My last question to you today is, have you seen the TV show Beverly Hills 90210?
No. At first I thought you were going to say Beverly Hillbillies, and I was like, yeah. No.
See, it's even better because that's even further back.
I was raised mostly on 60s and like 80s, not so much 90s. There's a few things I knew about that. Like at the Green Day, 90s band that I loved. But, yeah. Obviously, I can't know everything about the 90s. I wasn't
But you
born
know a
back
lot.
then. I know a bit, yeah.
It's impressive. It's been very impressive talking to you
Thank
today.
you. Thank you.
And thank you for being on the show.
I appreciate that.
Wikipedia moments.
Please bear in mind that Wikipedia can be edited by anyone at any time. If I'm reading you the artist's bio, then you know it's information straight from the source.
LaFace Records was an American record label based in Atlanta, Georgia, that operated as a unit of Sony Music Entertainment from 2008 to 2011 and was historically a part of Bertelsmann Music Group from 1989 to 2004. It was most active and achieved its greatest commercial success during the 1990s, dealing largely in the field of urban music. It was originally distributed by its co-creator, Arista Records, from 89 through 2001, after which it was shuttered and absorbed into Arista. In 2004, the label was rebooted and it began operating through Jive Records until both were absorbed into RCA in 2011. Today, the label's back catalog and reissues are managed by Legacy Recordings. LaFace was formed in 1989 as a joint venture between the producing duo Antonio L.A. Reid and Kenneth Babyface Edmonds and Arista Records. The combined nicknames of the duo's successful production company inspired the name of the label. LaFace went on to become a successful label throughout the 90s, responsible for launching the recording careers of such popular acts as TLC, Toni Braxton, Outkast, Pink, Usher, Goody Mob, and Donnell Jones. Towards the end of the decade, LaFace produced fewer artists, while Babyface began to focus more on his own music career. The label was acquired completely by Arista and BMG in 1999. In 2001, L.A. Reid was appointed chairman CEO of Arista. As a result of Reid's promotion, LaFace was dissolved as most of its prominent acts moved up to the main Arista label to continue to work under Reid. In 1992, LaFace signed Georgia duo Outkast. After receiving $15,000 advance from LaFace in 93, Outkast started recording the album, which was executive produced by Reid and Babyface. Outkast's first album, Southern Playalistic Adilla. Oh my goodness. Let me try one more time. Southern Playalistic Cadillac Music was released April 26, 1994, and entered the top 20 on the Billboard Top 200. The album went on to achieve platinum status in America. In 2004, after the corporate restructuring of the BMG labels, LaFace was reactivated as one quarter of the newly constructed Zomba music group during the Sony BMG joint venture at the time. Most of its former roster, who had moved on to Arista, returned to the company upon its reactivation. In 2011, LaFace, along with its previous Jive Zomba distributor, was again shuttered, this time being absorbed into RCA Records. Now, our special guest today from chartbeats.com.au. Such a magical website full of music history and all the charts you can dream up. We've got Gavin Scott on the show to talk about LaFace with me. Welcome, Gavin. Hey, hi from Canada.
Hello, Naomi from Sydney, Australia.
We are like thousands and thousands of kilometers away from each other. Not the first time I've had someone from Australia over Zoom for an interview, but it's so cool when you can make that happen.
Oh, no, absolutely. I did a lot of calls, and I'm sure we'll talk about it for the shows I've done, but mostly the UK, and North America was always tricky, especially like East Coast, because the time is so just out of whack, and what works for me didn't work for the other person, and that kind of thing. So I'm glad we could make this happen.
Yeah. So basically, so our listeners know, it's a Wednesday. It's the same day in Australia. It's 8 p.m. where Gavin is, and it's 4 a.m. in Mountain Time where I'm at.
Which is nuts.
But the good thing is I'm a night owl, so I'm fine with it.
Okay.
No problem.
Yeah. I would often have to stay up till like 11 p.m. midnight when I was speaking to people in the UK, and that was pushing it for me. So yeah, well done on the 4 a.m.
Yeah, no, it all worked out great. So Gavin, you are from Chartbeats, which is a journey through pop. Can you tell our listeners what it's all about? It's a website, it's a podcast. There's a lot to take in there.
Well, it started as a blog, and it started in 2012 when it was the 25th anniversary of me collecting my first ARIA chart. So ARIA is the Australian Record Industry Association. You might have heard of the ARIA Awards. They're kind of like your Junos, I guess.
Yes.
And there used to be a little sheet that you would get in a record store when there were so many record stores around. You would go in and it was the top 50, the national top 50 printout, and I'd take it home. And June 1987, I got one, and then the next week I got another. And then 11 years later, I was still getting them week after week after week. So I started recapping those top 50s. 25 years later, I recapped what the new entries were each week. And then, since then, I've done every single week of the 80s, every single week of the 90s, and then I stopped. And so on Chartbeats is this kind of archive of every top 100. I kind of did the songs that didn't make the top 50 as well. What entered that week, what position they got to, a little bit of a background about them, what I thought of them. And then in 2021, in COVID, a friend of mine and I, we had done a TV podcast. We worked in magazines, and we'd done a TV podcast, and it was COVID and there wasn't much going on, and we were like, oh, let's do another podcast, but let's do it ourselves. And we thought, well, what are we both into? What could we both talk about? And so we decided to do Stock Aitken and Waterman, who, if your listeners aren't familiar with, produced Dead or Alive, Bananarama, Kylie Minogue, Rick Astley, Donna Summer. They were called the Hit Factory in the UK. So they were kind of the UK version of LA Reid and Babyface. I mean, there are quite a lot of differences, but they released 200 singles produced by them. Most of them written by them as well. They did a few covers, like Venus by Bananarama is one of theirs. And so I said, let's go all the way through, a journey through Stock Aitken and Waterman. And so we started at 1984 when their first single came out. And earlier this year, so almost 4 years later, we got to the end. So it ended up being this mammoth undertaking, which we didn't really realize when we started, that we were going to have to talk about 200 songs. So we do 4 or 5 an episode, or sometimes one or two, depending how big the hits were. But it was a lot. So that's finished, and we're kind of like, oh, got through that. That was good. But the good thing was, we got to speak to Mike Stock, Matt Aitken, the Stock and Aitken in Stock Aitken Waterman, who were the songwriters. They did the songwriting. Pete Waterman was more the business side of things. He had the record label, which again is similar in some ways to the LA Reid and Babyface breakdown. And we spoke to artists. We spoke to Samantha Fox, who recorded with them, who your listeners will probably be familiar with. Who else? Like Kim Appleby from Mel and Kim, Sunita, Princess, Boy Crazy. Three of the members of Boy Crazy. That's what love can do. Which was a massive hit in North America, but flopped in the UK. So we told that story. I think I ended up interviewing about 80 different artists and producers and whoever for the show. And we told that story. We told that journey from 1984 to 1993, from kind of woe to go. And people have said, oh, what will you do next? What will you do next? And I don't know that I would ever do LA Reid and Babyface from beginning to end, because I don't know that I'm that much of an expert on them as I thought I was on Stock Aitken and Waterman, and, became more of an expert as we did the show. But LA Reid and Babyface are similar in that they have this great story. They have a beginning, they have a middle, and unfortunately, like all these things, they have an end. Mm-hmm. Of their partnership, that is. Obviously, they're both still going.
They're still doing their thing. Yes.
Yeah, but as a partnership, that kind of came to a conclusion.
Yes, a legendary team that made so much hit music. It's unreal. But
an amazing track record.
I'm really impressed with the amount of work you have put into building your archive to digitalize everything that you collected as well. Like, that's an undertaking.
Yeah, I had spare time. I had some time on my hands, and especially in COVID, that was with the podcast as well. That was a chance to really, let's do this as a project, and it kind of became almost a full-time job. And doing the audio editing and producing and all that kind of stuff, it's pretty time-consuming, as I'm sure you know.
Mm. And what's been obviously with the podcast, doing what you did, you've explained the majority of it. What was a favorite episode for you?
So the Stock Aitken Waterman was one podcast, and then when that was going well, I was like, let's do another. And so I started this other one called A Journey Through Aussie Pop, which was unearthing Aussie pop stars from the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, and telling their story. Because, and as we'll get into, Australia is very rock oriented. And Aussie pop has kind of got the short end of the stick a lot of the time. And there were all these great stories of these pop stars and pop acts that I felt hadn't been told. And so I started tracking people down and interviewing them. And that was more of definitely an interview-based thing. We would go through a different artist each episode, kind of what you do with your interviews with I've seen Tara Kemp, for example, and people like that. Finding these people and going, you had some major hits. What happened? How did they come about? What happened after the hits? That kind of thing. And that was really interesting, because there were all these questions I had about, what was this story? What was your story? Why did the hits end? And that kind of thing. And I got to answer all my questions that I've had for these decades of, why didn't they have another album? Why did that song not do so well? So that was really interesting in that respect. And then as that grew, I got to speak to kind of bigger and bigger artists. And Darren Hayes from Savage Garden came on, and he's obviously just put his book out recently and has really kind of revealed so much of his story. And he did that on our show as well, about the music and about Savage Garden and then the breakup and him going solo and the different solo stuff he's done. And that was fascinating. And you just learn so much about the music industry and why things work, why things don't. And it's not always about how good the song is.
And it's also sometimes a difficult undertaking to do these interviews because of the fact that I always like to keep things fun and positive. But when you're talking about the end of someone's career or getting dropped from their label or like some of that stuff was painful and hard to relive, right?
Yeah, I mean, for some people, it was so long ago that they've moved past it, and they could laugh about it and they could be philosophical about it. But sometimes, yeah, there were some things that were still raw, and you kind of bring it up in a sensitive way, but sometimes, yeah, it can get quite emotional for people to relive those moments of, great success, but then sometimes when things didn't go so well.
And I know you've mentioned some of the interviews you've done so far. What's a fun one that you can recount?
I have to say, really early on the Stockhagen Woman podcast, I interviewed a singer called Princess. She had a song called Say I'm Your Number One. And it was like episode 6 or something in the podcast, and ended up going for 80 plus episodes. And so I didn't really have this track record of the podcast. And, I had spoken to Hazel Dean for the first episode, and she was kind of the first hit for Stockhagen Waterman, the first top 10 hit in the UK. So I kind of had, well, I've spoken to Hazel Dean, will you speak to me? And it kind of took a while, and, jumped through these hoops of getting it to happen. And Princess is managed by her brother, Don. And eventually they agreed, yeah, okay, we'll do the podcast. And the interview just was mind-blowing. All this stuff I never would have imagined. Went for like an hour and a half, and I had my kids waiting to go to school, and I thought, oh yeah, I'll be done in half an hour. And then like an hour and a half later, I'm like, can you take them to school? I'm still going. And then they were just telling me all this stuff, and about, again, the successes, the hits, but also when things went wrong, and some things went very wrong for them. And it was very just eye-opening, I think, for me to hear, from the source, what had happened and how they felt about it. And that kind of set the tone in some ways for the Stockhagen Waterman podcast, because it was like, well, let's get the real deal. Let's get the story. Let's get to the truth of the matter. And as we then went on, it was like, okay, who can give another perspective? Let's speak to a video director. What about a stylist? Maybe they know something. What about the backing singers? They probably know stuff too and can shed light on how things happened. And so that was, I think that Princess interview was very formative for the podcast, but also kind of, I've worked as an entertainment journalist for, 25 years or so. And a lot of the time when you're writing for magazines, you have to ask what the magazine wants, or the audience of the magazine. It's not necessarily what you want to know, but it's what you know that the audience will want to know. This was what I wanted to know. These were the stories I wanted, the info I wanted. I wanted to ask about this single and why did this happen in that video? And, I think that, that's the fun part.
I think the artist appreciates that too, because they get tired of answering the same question over and over. And when you can say something completely unique like that, I think they appreciate that.
Yeah, I'd agree. And they know pretty quickly, okay, you've done your research. You know what you're talking about. And sometimes it's not even research, it's just memories. It's just, I had all those singles, and let's go through them.
Oh yeah. Those are the best ones, because that's a real conversation.
Yeah. And as you say, I think they appreciate it. I think they appreciate it, as you say, getting to talk about the stuff that they don't often get asked about.
Mm-hmm. Today, we decided to talk about this hit production songwriting duo, L.A. Reid and Babyface. Now, to kick things off, of course, Pink famously sang, L.A. told me you'll be a pop star. All you'll have to change is everything you are. Now, he denies ever having said that.
It's a good line.
It is a great, great line. What appeals to you the most about LaFace and their production team and the music they've made?
Well, for me, and obviously Pink was on LaFace, the label, which obviously evolved out of the songwriting partnership. But for me, it's going back to the beginnings, going back to the late 80s when they were in the deal, and then they started dabbling elsewhere with, Girlfriend for Pebbles and Rocksteady for the Whispers and the Mac Band and all that kind of stuff. That was when I started getting hooked on LA Reid and Babyface, the songwriting and production partnership. And it took me a little while because you'd hear these songs, or you wouldn't hear them, as was the case in Australia, but I would get to hear these songs, and it took me a while to connect the dots to go, oh, they're all produced by the same people. And it probably wasn't until like 88, 89, and there was the Don't Be Cruel album, Karen White's self-titled album, and Babyface's Tender Lover, when it kind of fell into place for me and was like, oh, they've got a great body of work and I like most of it. Similar to how it had happened with Stockake and Waterman a couple of years earlier, when I'd heard Venus and You Spin Me Round by Dead or Alive, and then Mel and Kim came along. I'm like, oh, these names, Stockake and Waterman, are on the backs of these records. Who are these people? And the same with LA Reid and Babyface, produced, written and produced by LA Reid and Babyface, sometimes with Daryl Simmons and KO and whoever else. Mm-hmm. And that's when I was like, oh, okay, I really like these guys. And, it's pre-internet, so you can't find this stuff out. You have to kind of stumble onto it. And for me in Australia, and I think I mentioned Australia's very rock-oriented, this music did not get played on the radio, not on commercial mainstream radio here. This was, you had to go to your community stations. And there was a community station near me called 2RDJ, which used to play, they had a show called Night Tracks, which I listened to religiously, and they would play this stuff and Midnight Star and Jodie Watley and all that kind of great stuff that just got ignored by Australian radio, because if it wasn't rock, if it wasn't Akka Akka, which is what we call AC/DC, or Midnight Oil or In Excess, and I do love In Excess, but it was very rock oriented, and they didn't like pop, and there were Aussie pop stars, but they weren't taken seriously, and
Kylie,
had to
though?
go. Well, Kylie came from a soap opera, had a hit with Locomotion. It was the highest selling single in 87 for the whole year. I think it was the highest selling single for the decade in Australia. And then the backlash started because she was too successful, and it wasn't rock, and it was synthesizers. It wasn't real music. So she was very successful. Had to go to the UK to, continue her career, because Australia kind of turned her back on her for a few years. And we talk about that in the podcast. But so LA Reid and Babyface had no chance. I mean, when I think of You by Janet Jackson, which obviously isn't them, was Jam and Lewis. When I think of You, Janet's first US #1 single didn't make the Australian top 50. So this is what we were dealing with. It was just, R&B, what's that?
This is very interesting, because I never knew, I knew that there's so many amazing rock bands that have come from Australia, but I didn't know it was hated on. Pop was hated like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it was all about the pub rock circuit. If you didn't come from the pub rock circuit and, earn your dues and all that kind of stuff, then radio wasn't interested, music television wasn't interested. And so being into LA Reid and Babyface was kind of like being into a secret that not everyone else was into. And as you come, I turned 13 in 1988, so I was coming into my teenage years, and that's when you want to, you start forging your own identity and thinking about, who am I going to be? What do I like? I'm not just going to follow what I've been listening to. Those top 50 sheets I talked about, I used to just love everything on it because they were on it. But then it would be like, I kind of took pride in only liking a certain amount and not being like a slave to what was on the top 50. And so I would find, and I had a friend at school who was very into LA Reid and Babyface, and he had rich parents. And so he could buy all this stuff on import, and I would go to his place and make him make tapes for me so I could listen to it at home. But so the two of us were into, Stockake and Waterman from the UK, and LA Reid and Babyface, Jam and Lewis, Teddy Riley from the US. But LA Reid and Babyface in particular, I think just because, that period, they were just firing so many, Sheena Easton, The Boys, and then we got, Johnny Gill and After Seven and Pebbles. It was just bam, 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 bam. There were so many hit singles, and it sounded great. It wasn't the sound we were hearing. It was fresh. It was R&B, but it was funk based, and
A bit of that New Jack swing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And It took until Every Little Step by Bobby Brown. That was their first hit in Australia. That went, I'm pretty sure it went top 10 here. So Don't Be Cruel did nothing here. My Prerogative kind of scraped into the top 50. But then Every Little Step was a hit, and it slowly started opening the door. And then by 1992, Humpin' Around went to number 1 here. But it took until 92, which was kind of like, almost the end of their songwriting partnership, for that sound to really connect here and get the support. And obviously End of the Road was massive around that time as well. So yeah, it was, kind of being in on something and a really cool sound that you weren't getting hammered with everywhere else. Sorry, it's a very long-winded answer.
No, that's a great answer. I just mostly remembering being introduced by the name LaFace on my record labels, or like the backs of the cassettes and everything, like you said. But also to say, like, the two individual men themselves, Babyface. I think the first time I heard of him was When Can I See You Again, I think is the name of the song. Like, one of his first solo efforts. Plus, there was a syndicated radio show in North America called Open House Party. And they would wrap up every episode with the one song called Two Occasions by The Deal.
Yeah.
So I was always like, oh, who does this song? So I figured that out. And then the only really thing is, yes, I'd heard of L.A. Reid many, many times, but didn't know anything about him until he became a judge on, I believe it was The X Factor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's where he kind of got into people's living rooms, and you knew who he was by his face. You knew what his credentials were. You've listened to all of the music he's made. But that's when I could put a face to L.A. Reid.
Yeah. And similarly, Pete Waterman of Stockacre Waterman, he was a judge on Pop Idol in the UK, and he had very much been the mouthpiece for Stockacre Waterman. But that was, in your living room every Saturday, Sunday night, whatever the show was on, they become a celebrity themselves, which is definitely a game changer. I think earlier it was very much names on the back of records, and unless you were a music fan, like a real fan, who cared about production. I mean, a lot of people who listen to music don't care who produced it, don't care who wrote it, sometimes don't even care who sang it. But when you're that type of person who gets the sleeve and scanning for, who's played bass on this, who's played drums on this, who produced it, that kind of thing, and that's where you pick up these names, and just seeing the names again and again and again, and you're like, wow, they're really onto something.
Yeah, and the two of them met like at a Midnight Star show back in the day. And if anyone's wondering why Reid was called LA, I guess it's because he frequently wore an LA Dodgers t-shirt as a child. So he was nicknamed that. Babyface was apparently a nickname given to him by Bootsy Collins because of his youthful look.
I was reading that before we chatted, because I realized I don't actually know their story. I have never delved back to discover how they met, how they started working together. I knew they were both in The Deal, and I knew that they had written for The Deal, and they did 3 albums as The Deal, and during that time Babyface did his first solo album, Lovers, which didn't do very much. And so I was aware of the music, but I wasn't really aware of kind of how they'd come together. And it's interesting, I was watching an interview that LA did with The Roots, and he was saying that when they went off from The Deal and did all this music that we're talking about, they kind of saw it as The Deal featuring whoever was the singer they worked with. So The Deal featuring Whitney Houston, I'm Your Baby Tonight. The Deal featuring Pebbles, Giving You the Benefit, or whatever, which is an interesting way of looking at it, because in The Deal, I'm pretty sure KO and Daryl Simmons, who played on and co-wrote a lot of their stuff, I think they were in The Deal or involved in The Deal. So it was very much, it was the formative process for this musical collaboration, this partnership, this band, and those songs. And Two Occasions, I think they had a couple of big hits, and Two Occasions is the best known one. But they took what they'd developed in that group and then just ran with it, which is amazing.
I'm going to play a clip of Two Occasions just so people hear that and go, oh, okay. I remember what you're talking about.
It's the best lyric. I only think of you on two occasions. That's day and night. I mean, it's so like it's great. It's kind of borderline cheesy, but it works.
Totally
And
works.
I mean, and that's the interesting thing about Ellie and Babyface stuff. They have a lot of like really love songs, like earnest love songs, like that the Quiet Storm side of their repertoire is really like, I'm in love with you and I have to tell I'll make love to you, boys to men. And actually the whole second half of Tender Lover by Babyface, so there's Whip Appeal, which kicks off like the slow jam side of the album, and then the 4 songs after that, As Soon As I Get Home and Sunshine, they're really just this earnest I really love you music. And then you contrast that to their Every Little Step and the really funky stuff like giving you a girlfriend and Giving You the Benefit and Secret Rendezvous.
Oh, I love
so much
that one.
attitude, so much attitude and kind of feistiness, and then they've got this really just so lovey-dovey stuff as well. It's interesting.
It's true, but I think their ballads really shine, and obviously the charts will tell you that's how it was for sure.
I always opted towards the more upbeat stuff, the for want of a better word, funkier stuff. But I mean, End of the Road, it broke the record, right? For weeks at #1 in the US. I think it broke Elvis's record with Hound Dog. And then they beat that again with I'll Make Love to You, and I think One Sweet Day then broke it. Anyway.
Yeah.
All of those massive mega ballads, people love a mega ballad.
And just starting their partnership together, they were based out of Atlanta. Now, Atlanta, very shortly after that, became a huge hotbed for music, for R&B, for New Jack Swing. Everybody was going to Atlanta.
Yeah, well, that's, I guess, when they then launched the label. So they'd had these hits. They'd, successfully launched Bobby Brown, along with Teddy Riley, obviously, as a solo artist. So they had the track record of, okay, we've had the deal, we've had these hits, we're now having a lot of hits. Let's launch a label. I mean, it's the obvious thing. Again, Stockhaken and Waterman did the same thing. They launched PWL under different circumstances, but yeah, have your own label. You can control the artist, you can control the songs, you can make all the money. Uh, but it became the next level. And then LaFace, the label, obviously then went on and on and on. I mean, it outlasted LA Reid and Babyface as a songwriting duo because it went on to Pink, as you mentioned, and Usher and Outkast and TLC, who worked with them, but then they kept going after LA Reid and Babyface weren't working together anymore. So LaFace, the label, yeah, definitely took things to the next level.
Oh yeah, Toni Braxton also was a huge part of that.
Of course, absolutely. And she was kind of one of the last people they worked with as a songwriting duo. But to her and TLC, the millions and millions of albums they both sold in the US and Canada and I mean around the world, but millions of albums, and then they both went bankrupt. Which always I could never understand how that happened. But I guess that's just
There's
another
many
podcast.
things said about that now. Yes, one of the main characters in that story will be brought up right away.
Yes. But I mean, without, I guess, saying things that could get us sued, I guess that the point of that is they did sell so many records, and it was the sound, as you said, the sound of the 90s. I mean, they started in the 80s, and that's the stuff I'm kind of maybe I hold in the fondest regard for. But they were the sound of the 90s. I mean, Baby, 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 and End of the Road, and what else haven't we? Oh, yeah, Breathe Again, and You Mean the World to Me, Toni Braxton. Massive, absolutely massive.
Yeah. Now, one of the most important artists that they worked with in the very beginning was Pebbles. Pebbles eventually became L.A. Reid's wife, and she had a lot of hits. One of the big things too that happened that I read or watched in an L.A. Reid interview was that Vanessa Williams was upset with him because he had originally written Girlfriend for Vanessa.
Yes, I think I have heard that. Yes.
And then instead of making sure I guess basically they heard Pebble sing it. And Babyface was like, that's her. That's her song. Because the big thing that they wanted to get across, and Babyface especially said, is we were here to, it's about the song. What services the song best? And they felt, it's definitely Pebble's song to sing. She's going to do the best job with it. So they gave it to Pebbles, and I think that Vanessa Williams wasn't very happy about that, unfortunately.
I mean, all ended up okay because Vanessa had her hits and
Yes.
has done very well for herself. And actually, I mean, her biggest hits were with the other end of the spectrum, those ballads, Save the Best for Last, The Sweetest Days, things like that. That was her wheelhouse. And I know she had Running Back for More and, all those more upbeat songs. But I feel like Vanessa found her niche in that big emotional ballad thing.
Yes.
And yeah, it probably was better that she didn't sing Girlfriend because it probably did suit Pebbles better. And yeah, Pebbles had the big hit with it. And I completely lost my train of thought. Yes, about serving the song. Okay. It's interesting that you should mention that because I was watching another interview as well about whether they wrote songs for people or just took a song off the shelf and then said, oh, here we go, here's one we prepared earlier kind of thing. And it was a combination, but often they would write bespoke for the artist. So I think Bobby Brown was given as an example of Don't Be Cruel is all Bobby. There was an interview with Daryl Simmons where he was talking about Bobby's energy in the studio. He was always late to the studio and he was always, I think he called him balls out. And Daryl made this comment about, I said he's going to be dead by 30 because he was just so, chaotic energy. And they poured that into Don't Be Cruel and it fit him like a glove. And, you can tell when the artist suits the song or whether the song suits the artist. And I guess that was the case with Pebbles as well. She obviously had the right vibe for that song. Having said that, they did also sometimes take some tracks off the shelf and go, oh, and I'm Ready by Tevin Campbell was given as an example. That was a song that Babyface apparently had kicking around for years, and then ended up going to Tevin in the mid-90s, and he did very well with it. But I think you can tell when a song has been written for someone. It just fits. The fit is there, I think.
Oh yeah, they really catered to Bobby Brown's style of being like the bad boy of R&B. I feel like Pebbles was kind of like a naughty girl of R&B too, a little bit, you know? Like I didn't find her to be like totally clean cut or anything. Like I don't know. I thought her songs were great.
Yeah. Do you want to ride in my Mercedes, boy? Which, not LaFace, but from that era, that was a bit, that was a bit cheeky. That was a bit sexy, which is funny because obviously Pebbles has gone, Perry, as she I think is now
Sister Perry.
Sister Perry has left that world completely behind and tapped into her religious interests. But yeah, in the 80s and 90s, she was sassy.
Yeah. And also there was a story that L.A. Reid was telling where Paula Abdul was a guest in his house early in her career. And Pebbles came home and saw Paula was there and got jealous and started trashing the place. Broke all of his glass.
Really?
Yeah.
I have not heard that one.
She was a feisty lady.
Yeah, right. And because Paula only did the one track with them, which knocked out.
Yeah.
And I wonder not that Paula, wanted for hits. She had so many hits off those first two albums. But I wonder what would have happened if they had have worked more with Paula. That would have been interesting, I guess, because Knocked Out is a great track. I think it wasn't the biggest of her hits, but it would have been interesting to see what else they could have come up with for her.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm surprised I didn't do more with her, but her songs were great. And it all worked out just fine.
It did. And I guess by the time, because her album came out in 88 or whatever, and she'd worked with one song with L.A. Reid and Babyface and Ollie Lee Bear and all those other people.
Yes.
And then they released all the singles from it over the next, 3 years. And it wasn't until 91 that she did a second album, by which point she didn't kind of really need to go back to L.A. Reid and Babyface by then. She was like, I'm established. I'm going to go off and work with the Family Stand.
That's right. Who I had on the show and I've talked to about.
Yeah.
We touched on that album, on Spellbound. So that was really cool.
Yeah. A great album.
To believe or not to believe, that is the question. It just takes a street degree. You've lied your last lie, and I've cried my last cry. I'm out the door, babe. This other fish in the sea.
Messages. We'll be right back.
Hi. If you enjoy Dope Nostalgia, thank you. Consider becoming a Patreon subscriber today for as little as $1 a month.
It helps keep the show on the air and rolling. So if you want to check out our Patreon, it's at patreon.com/dope nostalgia. $1 a month, and you'll be helping support one of your favorite podcasts.
What's up, guys? Damon Sharp here. You are listening to the Dope Nostalgia Podcast.
Hey, Dope Nostalgia listeners. My name is Shalina. I'm the host of Everything 90s Podcast. This is a show dedicated to folks who grew up in the 1990s, and in each episode, I take listeners on a nostalgic trip down 90s memory lane as I reminisce about the highs of that decade. Topics include TV shows, movies, toys, music, and every year I also do a special series called 90s versus 2000s. This is where people come on to battle it out and represent the two decades for a given category, and then the listeners vote on which decade they think won that category. So if this is a show that you are interested in checking out, it's available on Apple Podcast and Spotify, and you could also connect with me on Instagram at Everything 90s Podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and looking forward to connecting with you.
Don't I get 2 pan pizzas for the price of one?
Don't think of it as one pizza. Think of it as one pizza and one box.
What am I going to do with a box?
Ever hear of origami?
What's that?
A pterodactyl.
A what?
At Little Caesars, you never get 1 pan pizza and 1 box. You get 2 great pan pizzas for one low price.
Now, when you talk about songs that were on the shelves, the song Roni was pulled from the shelf. It was written in 83 and by Babyface, and he didn't do anything with it until he gave it to Bobby Brown.
Well, there we go. It's another one. I wasn't aware of that.
And I've always wondered, what's a Roni? Right?
I assumed it was some kind of American slang or North American slang. I was just like, oh, okay, it's probably what we'd call like a Sheila in Australia, or
Sheila, that Sheila.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Sheila, as opposed, it's not just a girl's name, but in Australia, a Sheila is a girl. So I thought a road like a tenderoni was like a boo, or something like that.
A tenderoni. Well, and then Vanilla Ice had a song called "Having a Roni." So
someone must know the answer.
And I thought, well, this must be a really sexual word or something, but it apparently just meant sweet girl, a sweet young girl.
Right. Well, there we go.
Roni is what, yeah, apparently that's what it actually means. So not too crazy, but that's an example of them finding the right song for the right person. And they did well with Bobby Brown. There you go.
It did work with him. And I guess it did show his more sensitive side. It allowed him to slow things down, and that and Rockwitcher were very much him doing the lover side of his personality instead of the bad boy so much. But it sounds like, and again, I haven't delved into this as much as I would like to, but it does sound like Babyface was, I guess, the driving force when it came to the songwriting, like maybe the lyrics and the melody. Mm-hmm. And then LA and Daryl and KO would more write the sound. I don't know. I'd be interested to dive into that a bit more. But that's the impression I'm getting, in that Babyface was more maybe lyrics and melody, and his collaboration with LA and the others was, I guess, they were the band in the deal. So they would make that song whole and come to life and come up with the bass lines and the production. And that's my guess of kind of how it worked. But yeah, I would like to get more into that, because again, sorry to keep harking back to the Stockhausen Waterman thing, but we did get into that a lot with them, of how, who did what and how the song came together, and what each of Stock and Aitken and Waterman's roles were, because they were quite distinct. When you see written and produced by a team of people, you kind of just think, oh yeah, so they all worked on it together. but obviously, they can't all do the same thing at the same time.
There are roles. There has to be. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I had never really thought about, well, what did LA do and what did Babyface do? And I'm sure they had a very distinct, and same with Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, I'm sure they have very distinct roles that they bring to the table.
I'm hoping there's an interview out there somewhere where they discuss that. The reason I'm also thinking they both have songwriting credits apart from each other too. They didn't always just write together or in that group. So that just tells me that L.A. Reid also writes lyrics and melody, but maybe as LaFace, as the two of them come together, you're right. There's probably roles there.
Yeah, and I think it's the fact that he then kind of moved away from songwriting suggests that he was more production and then maybe A&R. I saw him talking about, them having a song and then him going, well, who do I get on the phone to? And so that was him, especially when it came to the label, he stepped into that more A&R role. And then that obviously saw him through the rest of his career as he went to, the other labels.
Yes.
And then signed people to LaFace post LA Reid and Babyface, like the Pinks and people like that. So he very much got into A&R and the business side of the music business, whereas Babyface seemed to continue the music, doing the music, doing the songs and, releasing music himself and things like that.
Yeah, and he's also definitely a singer, songwriter, star in his own right with his own solo material. He's more of a reluctant, shy type of person who doesn't strive to have the fame and be all over the billboards and stuff. That's not him, So there's still that part of him that likes to be the behind the scenes writer.
Yeah, it must be a really interesting dichotomy to have within the one person to, because I guess a lot, Diane Warren doesn't put out singles or albums herself. She's very much, I'll write and you sing. But for someone who is, preferring to stay back to then venture out every so often and do that must be interesting. I think I did read something where he had said he had kind of neglected his solo career. Like he did put out Lovers and then Tender Lover and then the album that has When Can I See You Again and Rock Bottom and all that on it in the mid-90s. He did regularly release stuff and has until this day, but I guess was so busy doing other stuff that, probably didn't do a lot of promo, probably didn't spend a lot of time pushing himself as an artist. And as you say, maybe that didn't come naturally anyway. Maybe. But I do feel like he deserved more solo success.
He's done amazing for himself. I know he's still putting out music and collaborations with people as Babyface, as the artist. So that's wonderful to see. And then, like you said, L.A. Reid went more of the business music mogul direction. So in the last 30 years, there was LaFace. Then he went to become the CEO at Arista. Then he went on to Island Def Jam. He went on to Epic Records, which is a division of Sony Music. So these are huge positions. His tenure at Epic ended, and then in the last 5 years or so, he started his own Hitco label.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, the music industry is not the same as it was, even 5 years ago, 10 years ago, but it's changed so much that, I mean, there's fewer and fewer of those massive labels and those massive companies. So I guess when you've done all that, when you've headed Arista and Epic, when you've done all that, it's like, where do you go?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, and he did the judging reality show judging thing, as you mentioned at the top of the show. So I guess he's probably at the point in his career now where he can just do what interests him and just go with that.
One thing I wanted us to talk about is kind of have a back and forth about our favorite tracks that either, them together wrote and produced, or even if it's just one of them, just some Babyface, L.A. Reid type tracks. I tried to pick some of them that weren't maybe as well known, but are favorites of mine. So of course, Gavin, I'd like to invite you to pick a song and share it to start.
Okay. Well, I have a top 5. So because if people have listened to any episodes of my podcast, they will know I love a list, I love a countdown, and I love a chart. So I'll quickly run through my top 5, and we don't have to talk at length about them. But these are my like ultimate LA Reid and Babyface top 5. So 5 is I'm Your Baby Tonight, Whitney. 4 is Giving You the Benefit, Pebbles. 3
That's on my list.
3 is Secret Rendezvous, Karen White. 2 is Every Little Step, Bobby Brown. And 1 is actually It's No Crime by Babyface. My
Very
favorite
cool.
LA Babyface singer. So they're all from basically 88 to 90, that golden era for me. But so that's my top 5. But there are a lot more that I love as well. And there was a couple I was like, oh, I'd love to squeeze this into my
Give me
top
the
5.
honorable mentions, because I was having
honorable
trouble with that too.
mentions.
Yes.
Can't Stop by After 7. And Right Down to It by Damien Dame.
Excellent choices. See?
So, yeah.
Yeah.
What about you? I'd love to hear yours.
Okay. Yes, I went over the 5 limit slightly as well, but the one that we mutually picked was definitely Giving You the Benefit by Pebbles. Take a Bow by Madonna. That one was a big single, but also Babyface sang backup vocals on it too.
Yes.
Tevin Campbell's Can We Talk? Gorgeous song. Knocked Out. Paula Abdul was on my list.
Yeah.
Boys to Men, Water Runs Dry.
Oh, great song.
It's a single, but it's not one of the ones that you first know right off the bat, right? Humping Around, Bobby Brown. I had to go with
Australian number 1.
I had to go with the second album on that one. I just wanted to go there. There's a song on Kelly Clarkson's debut album. It's a duet with Tamara Gray called You Thought Wrong.
I know the song.
Such a banger. I love it.
Okay. Yeah, I love that. I love those early Kelly Clarkson albums. I mean, I love a lot of her stuff, but yeah, those great albums.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great listen. Can We Talk? It's interesting you mentioned Can We Talk, because I was thinking about the end of the partnership and it wasn't just, one wanted to do this and one wanted to do that. Apparently, there was a bit of tension, and it's always fun to hear about tension and disappointing sometimes, but tension can be fun. But apparently there was some tension over Can We Talk, because apparently, and Tevin Campbell was saying this in an interview, LA wanted that song for Usher, who he'd signed to LaFace, and it went to Tevin Campbell. And apparently that was a point of contention between LA and Babyface, but also between Usher and Tevin. And I think Usher apparently still jokes about it. Oh, you got my song, according to Tevin. So that's interesting. And that came out in 94, and that was about the time when they kind of started doing different elements of the business. So it makes sense.
I mean, yeah, I'm sure they've had many disagreements over the years about who should get what song, creative differences, and it's only natural for those things to happen, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, every partner, well, actually, Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis are still going strong.
Yes.
they're still going strong. But you think about most partnerships, whether it's songwriting, production, whether it's performers like Eurythmics, Hall and Oates.
Yeah.
I mean, that has blown up just recently. And I don't even know the full story. I've kind of just seen the headlines, but you kind of think, really, after all these years?
Yeah, they're not talking.
No, I know. And maybe it's happened several times over the past, like, and Fleetwood Mac, my gosh. But
John and Richie.
yeah. So there's so many partnerships don't end well. So yeah, I guess kudos to Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis for hanging on in there.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a duo we should do an episode about.
Well, it was very much like the two of them, and even some of these albums, like Karen White kind of went from working with LA Reid and Babyface on her first album to more Jam and Lewis, and obviously she also married Terry Lewis, so that probably had something to do with it. But so she kind of straddled both camps. Johnny Gill on the one album had Rub You the Right Way with Jam and Lewis and had Fair with a Friend with LA Reid and Babyface. So they were very much like, if you couldn't get one, maybe you tried for the other, or sometimes you were lucky and you got both of them to work on your album.
I wonder what the competitiveness was like with the two duos. Like, was there a rivalry?
I've heard there was a friendly rivalry.
Yeah.
But I think because they were both so successful and there was clearly enough success to go around, I think if one was like really successful and the other one was struggling, maybe there would have been contention, or they stole our artist, or they stole our hit or whatever. But I think because they were both just churning out these hits, they were both just laughing.
There was enough work to go around.
And there certainly was, wasn't there, around that time? And then, they had, Jam and Lewis had Janet as their kind of,
their main
flagship.
Yes.
Their flagship sounds wrong for a person, but you know what I mean. Their main standout artist, who, and I guess Bobby was LA Reid and Babyface's kind of flagship artist.
And I still think of Tony Braxton with that way too with them.
Later on, absolutely. Yeah, the one, who was just at a different level, worldwide. Kind of thing.
That would have been Bobby.
I think so. I mean, yeah, he was the one that did it here in Australia. He broke through that barrier here, that resistance to LA Reid and Babyface. He was the one that did it. So,
yeah.
She's a sweet little girl. You can treat her right, real nice, and hold her tight. Only tenderonis can give the special love, the special kind of love that makes you feel good inside. You believe in love and all that it can do for you. Give it a chance, girl. You find romance. And if you find the tenderoni that is right for you, make it official. Give it your love. My heart belongs to Tenderoni. She's my only love. She's my only love. My only heartbeat, belongs to Tenderoni. She's my only love. She's my only love.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like the career, people don't realize how popular Bobby Brown was. Like,
Oh, he was huge, and the UK as well, massive in the UK. And I remember because there was always Billboard magazine, pre-internet. There was Billboard magazine, and there was Smash Hits and Number One magazine from the UK. And we would this friend of mine and I would soak up these magazines and look for these songs that hadn't been released here, or whatever. And then you'd see the ones that were hits in both countries. You were like, oh, well, they have to be good. It's been a hit in the US, been a hit in the UK. It's got to be good. What's wrong with you, Australia? Wake up. And Bobby Brown was, one of those ones who was just everywhere.
Yeah. Before we get to the end of this, one thing I did want to mention too is I watched another interview with L.A. Reid where he was talking about his biggest failure. And did you see that one as well?
No.
I think he was talking to Larry King actually. His biggest failure was dropping Lady Gaga.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, like apparently he signed her, and when he got the music before it was to be like the album, he didn't like it. He thought he'd made a mistake, so he dropped her.
Yeah,
so she takes that album to somewhere else. Boom. So he's like, because normally he's got very sharp on this, and he's very good at A&R, and that one, escaped him.
Yeah, right. That's interesting. I think now you mention it, that does ring a bell. And I mean, every A&R person must have an artist like that. They must have someone they passed on. Like you mentioned Kylie Minogue when we were talking about Saw, and everyone in the UK passed on Kylie Minogue. And she had her first single in Australia that had come out, and then they were trying to break her in the UK, and they'd recorded I Should Be So Lucky with her. No one would release it. Simon Cowell was offered it because he had a record label back then called Fanfare, which he released. Sunita was his biggest artist on that. And he turned Kylie Minogue down. And he said since that he kicks himself that he turned Kylie Minogue down because once PWL ended up putting Kylie out, they put her out in-house. And that first album in the UK was the biggest selling album of the year. So I think, with A&R, for every 5 successes you have, there's got to be 1 or 2 where you're just like, damn, why did we say no to that? Why didn't we sign that artist or push that artist or whatever? So
yeah, that can happen to everybody. Now, I like to keep things light and fluffy and happy on the show. But before I end things, one more thing I got to mention is the reason that L.A. Reid wasn't at Epic Records anymore is apparently there have been some sexual harassment lawsuits filed against him. We're not going to say too much about that, but just so that, it's known there's been an issue, and hopefully justice prevails on this.
Yeah, I mean, you can Google it. You can read up about it. It's it's always tricky to separate the music from the person in situations like that, and other situations where things get even more messy. We're seeing one of them play out at the moment. There's a court case going on at the moment, which I'm sure everyone knows about. It's really tricky to divorce the artist and the artistry and the music from the person. And, sometimes you can't divorce the two, and you've got to go, well, what do I do with that information? And I think, I guess it's something for everyone to make their own judgment call on. Yeah. And with something like that, read about what happens, read about what is said in the court cases. And, it's a tricky one. It's a tricky one for sure to wrap your head around sometimes.
Yeah, I just hope that, like I said, justice runs its course. And if the allegations are true, then I hope the women are vindicated, and everything will be more positive for them. But also, I just hope that he isn't like another Harvey Weinstein type of person,
I mean, that's the worst thing that can happen, isn't it? That, people who you've grown up and idolized or whatever, it's kind of, I mean, not that I grew up idolizing Harvey Weinstein, but did anyone?
Nope, I don't think so.
No. So it's a tricky situation, and especially when there are lawsuits and things like that, you kind of, you need to let them play out. You need to let them see what happens, and trust that the legal system will get to the bottom of it. And that's all you can really hope for. I think that, the truth will come out.
Exactly. But is there anything you'd like to add before we wrap up this episode?
Well, what was the situation in Canada with kind of L.A. Reid and Babyface? Were they kind of just the same? Did they have that same exposure and that same kind of?
It was pretty much the same as the US. Our charts mirrored theirs quite closely. Of course, ours had more CanCon artists. Our radio stations in Canada are required to play a certain amount of Canadian content to support our own artists. So that also gives them a boost in that direction. Does Australia have something similar?
Yeah. I know they definitely do on TV. I'm pretty sure they did, or maybe still do on radio. But yes,
little radio still exists, right?
Well, that's right. That's not just talk radio. It's like MTV. MTV stopped being music television so long ago that same with radio. But so if it was big in America, chances are it would cross the border into Canada.
Yes, very much so. It was. I think it would be pretty rare to say that there'd be an artist that was huge in the US that wouldn't be huge in Canada. It's too similar. Right. It's more hard for the Canadians to break it into the States, which many have done successfully. More so in the last 30 years than ever before. So I think that's pretty cool. But yes, American media is pretty much fills Canadian households as well.
Yeah. I guess, and it would have been easier for them to promote there because it's a short hop over the border as opposed to a 14, 16-hour flight to Australia to come and promote.
Yeah, you've really got to plan a tour to go to Australia, right?
Yeah. It did pay off though. When people came to Australia, pre-internet, being able to jump on Zoom and appear on a talk show in Australia via Zoom or whatever. When people did come to Australia, it paid off, I feel. I feel like when people went to the effort, it would pay off. Like Pink, who you've mentioned, is absolutely massive in Australia, and her albums would sell 500,000 copies just in Australia, which is when most albums are lucky to sell 70,000 copies. For an album to sell, 10 times that, or 8-10 times that was massive. She has broken records of concerts here in Australia because she spent so much time here. She would come here, and it pays off. And she, of all the LaFace artists, songwriting or label or whatever, Pink is the biggest success story in Australia, just because she has spent a lot of time here and just sold so many albums, so many concert tickets. Well deserved too. Yeah, she's fantastic. Yeah. What's the population of the country? It's, I want to say 25 million, but I'm just going to Google it now. Because you know what? That's probably outdated. I have that number stuck in my head for Canada, 25 million, but it's more like 45 now. Okay, it's 26.6 for Australia. So I wasn't far off. And Canada is telling me you've got 40 million. 40 million. California has 39 million. So it kind of puts it in perspective. We don't have as many people in Australia as the state of California.
We got all this space.
We do have a lot of space. That's right.
But no, it's a wonderful thing. Before I wrap things up, I wanted to mention to you, do you remember the story about when New Kids on the Block were accused of lip syncing and they were on tour in Australia when the accusation flew? And so they literally flew back to the US the next day just to be on the Arsenio Hall show to prove themselves, and then flew right back to their tour in Australia.
Again, that rings a bell. That sounds like something I remember, but it seems to happen to people in Australia because there was another artist, like a British rapper called Betty Boo, Alison Clarkson, who dropped a microphone in Australia. And she was just doing, she wasn't touring, she was just doing a promo trip. And so she probably was lip syncing to a backing track because she was just doing TV shows or whatever. Mm-hmm. But it was around the time of Milli Vanilli, so it was kind of a big no-no, and she dropped the microphone and whatever happened. And it was just, that was the end of her here because of that, and she would have been doing one of those gigs where there was no sound check, there was no, she probably had no choice. But
this is the thing though. The artists will be okay. How many of these shows make the people lip sync? Top of the Pops, for instance, in the UK, you are forced to. And then it's if something goes wrong, everyone's mad at the artist. That's not fair.
That's not fair, indeed. And neither New Kids on the Block nor Betty Boo were a Milli Vanilli situation. That was unique. Well, actually not unique because Boney M, but that was. Right. Milli Vanilli was a case all unto itself.
That's all on Frank Farian.
Yes,
that's
indeed.
Yeah. That's another episode. That's another
Yes.
episode.
I spoke to, you asked me who my favorite interviews were, but I spoke to Precious Wilson, who was the singer from Eruption. And she recorded one song with Stockake and Waterman. And so because we were doing every single, we had to cover it. And so I spoke to her, one of the best interviews. And it wasn't really about Stockake and Waterman. It was about Frank Farian. It was about Eruption. It was about him wanting her to go into Boney M. It was all this great stuff about the industry and the ins and outs and people getting screwed over and all that kind of stuff. She was a delight. She was an amazing interview, and just, when people have been around since the 70s, they're going to have some stories.
Oh yes, I love it when they really let it rip. They just. I love to hear those things. Because they're at the point where it's like, well, I don't care anymore. I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it all. It's their truth. Let them do it, right?
Yeah.
But that's wonderful. People can go to your website then to find these episodes of the podcast as well as check out your archive.
Yes. So it's chartbeats.com.au is the website, and the podcasts are on there. The podcasts are on Spotify as well. A Journey Through Stockake and Waterman, A Journey Through Aussie Pop. The chart archive is paywalled, but if you love charts, you can check out a sample, and if it floats your boat, then go for it.
Gavin, you've been amazing. Thank you for making this time.
And thank you for having me and for staying up so late. You need to go and get some sleep.
Yeah, it's time to go to bed. Boo.
Yeah. But thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Social media, we've got it. Send us an email, dopenostalgiapodcast@gmail.com. Twitter, Nostalgia Dope. Or on Insta, dope_nostalgia.
This podcast is licensed by SOCAN because we believe that artists should be paid for their work. Hey friends. I kind of miss getting those messages on my answering machine like we used to back in the day. What I'd really love is to hear from you, the listeners of Dope Nostalgia. This is your chance to be on the show, giving feedback, telling us what you love, what you hate, and who you'd like to see more of. Call us at our new toll-free number, 1-888-741-9192. Leave us some feedback. Your message could be played on the show. So give us a call, 1-888-741-9192. Toll-free.